Neuromagnetism. It's the study of weak electrical signals from the brain and how they can be influenced by incoming electromagnetic fields, such as directed energy. The idea that certain frequencies in the electromagnetic spectrum can influence the human mind is something that would seem foreign to most people, as is novel nanotechnology that can be ingested or injected to amplify electrical signals within the body. But this field of science has been shifting into greater focus in recent years, thanks to media coverage of Havana syndrome, also known as anomalous health incidents.
Sources tell CBS News the U.S. quietly purchased a device in late 2024 that may be connected to the mysterious condition known as Havana syndrome. We're told the U.S. government is now testing that portable backpack-sized device that emits pulsed radio frequency energy. There have been multiple investigations into the origins of Havana syndrome, but nothing conclusive has been released so far.
The media will tell you it's a syndrome affecting military and intelligence personnel. They are reported to hear strange noises and tinnitus, suffer from extreme pressure inside the head, dizziness, nausea, memory problems, and depression. What the media don't tell you is that there are tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of civilian cases that go undiagnosed and acknowledged. These overlooked victims call themselves targeted individuals.
What we're talking about with targeted individuals, it could be anything from hearing voices, God speaking to me.
Some people are subjected to microwave torture, so that's radio frequency, electromagnetic torture to cause you discomfort. In some cases, it could take out your heart.
So this is a person who is experimented upon. Electronic weapons, electronic harassment. So that is already enough to drive you out of your mind, to drive you into psychiatry, to make you commit suicide. Neurotech weapons like reading your thoughts and inserting thoughts. Sometimes you hear voice, some people hear voices, putting emotions into your head and using all this information to drive you crazy, to torture you.
They're saying these things like, oh, I'm hearing voices in the head. And then they're getting put on medication, and the medication has not helped them.
Now, these could be people that have stood up to authorities or whistleblowers.
If you're thinking a certain way, it's going to manifest as pain, excruciating pain. So are you going to think like that again? Well, probably not.
In my opinion, this is the continuing of the Holocaust. It's a perfect weapon. You can make your enemy kill himself.
This is psychological warfare. I can't identify my captor, but I know I'm in some kind of a mental prison.
These victims will tell you that in addition to the reported symptoms, they are being physically zapped, seemingly by directed energy on the inside and outside of the body. These zaps can create pain and limb movement. They are attacks that react in real time to their thoughts. These symptoms are known as electronic harassment. Other victims report that in addition to strange noises, they have round-the-clock voices talking to them in their head, voices that react to their thoughts and spoken word. These voices typically say some of the most vile and evil things you could say to a person. Threats of rape, murder, attacks on loved ones, or things to create paranoia, humiliation, and ridicule, usually a combination of all of the above. These attacks are known as V2K, or voice to skull, and in many cases seem to be computer-generated. Sometimes these voices will pose as God or some demonic spirit, which encourages the victim to carry out acts of violence, murder, or self-harm.
I woke up Friday, October 5th, 2018 with loud, crystal clear audible voices. It's absolute full ownership of your auditory cortex.
This technology allows to pipe in voices into one's head.
It's like utter paralyzing confusion and terror, because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it seems like you're hearing this voice and it's criticizing you and it's making these horrible remarks on you, and it comes out of nowhere.
It just sounded like having a cell phone call with somebody, but it's directly in your head. At first, it'd make me talk out loud to them as they were talking to my head, and then I realized that they could literally, I just have to think, and now we have like conversations completely like in my own head with them. Yeah. Silent, which is bizarre.
I was also manipulated by V2K, pretending to be God. For me, that's been one of the hardest things I've had to deal with. So it took a while for me to get my faith back. So it's very dangerous.
The V2K was saying that they were going to kill my mother and my pets. And they were going to kill me and make it look like it was a suicide.
They have the ability to hit us with frequencies, anything from, please go kill yourself, or you deserve every bit of this.
It's very apparent that the voice that you're hearing has no good intentions for you. To belittle you, to denigrate you, to hurt you, to terrify you, to make you panic, to make you confused, and you just start to lose your grasp on what's going on. Ultimately, if you can think of the darkest things that you could say to somebody, something that you would never say to somebody, those are the sorts of things that it uses to destroy you.
At first, they were saying a lot of homosexual things to me. Once that really didn't fly, as far as getting me mad or whatever, they switched over to talking a lot about pedophilia, and that was happening a lot.
Automated torture, 24/7, 365. You have to understand that it's just a computer. Whatever you don't like, it will continue doing.
It was mocking, deriding, and then they can suggest thoughts and actions and emotions. About 6 months of straight-on torture, driving me to the absolute brinks of sanity.
V2K exploits fears, traumas, insecurities. It deceives, it manipulates.
80% of the time now, it is negative, extremely negative, horrific. But then 20% of the time, they'll have conversations with me. They'll talk with me. They'll ask me what I think about this.
They almost attempt to build a relationship with us. And if we don't respond to that relationship, they try to make us feel guilty.
I'm sitting here and I'm feeling these frequencies, these energy beams going into my head, and pain, pressure.
Microwave auditory effect is not limited to producing sensation of sound. It doesn't mean that it exclusively produces auditory sensation. It's not true. It can just produce vibrations. It can produce these thermomechanical waves.
My brain, it has been pressurized. So even while I'm sitting here, my brain is pressurized. My ears are ringing constantly. V2K is quite similar in a way, although I don't hear any voices. If your ears are constantly ringing, hissing, it's just horrible. It's absolutely, and vibrating, the vibration of the body.
Victims also report thoughts and dreams being sent into their head daily. The thoughts are often indistinguishable from your own, but are obvious because they seem out of place compared to your usual thoughts. These could be regularly appearing subtle thoughts telling you to kill yourself or to hurt people.
They can elicit strong emotional reactions on people, and they could do it with whatever emotion. We can turn you on right now. We can make you angry. We can make you sad, and they would do it. It was like they pressed a button, and it just went, and it just would just go away, and I just felt like totally normal.
The dreams are noticeably different from ordinary dreams in that they are often vulgar or include some kind of trauma, and they are usually more memorable and less abstract.
I was aware for a while that my dreams were being influenced. It's very, very clear that they're using dreams to reinforce the programming, to program the unconscious mind. I'm getting the same thing, some kind of like trauma dream where there's like something goes really wrong, there's a lot of war themes, sick themes, things I wouldn't even want to talk about. It's some kind of catastrophe. A lot of that is to traumatize you even when you sleep, because remember, this is trauma-based mind control.
These special dreams are dreams where you can remember the most part of it at the next day.
Targeted individuals often also complain of nightmarish, Stasi-like gang-stalking, which was recently acknowledged by popular right-wing commentator Nick Fuentes.
Thoughts on gang stalking?
It's real. And if you're a targeted individual, you need to watch out, okay? For your own safety. Don't say anything. It's real, and I'm talking to you. Yeah, you. If you're a targeted individual, don't say anything. No one can help you. Nobody can help you. You think you could go to the police? You think you could go to the law enforcement? No one will believe you. They're in on it. So just shut up.
When I get up, I get attacked. When I have breakfast, I get attacked. When I go out, I get followed and attacked. When I come home, I get attacked. When I have dinner, I get attacked. And when I go to bed, I get attacked. They are on me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The attacks suffered by targeted individuals don't last an hour and then disappear. When it begins, it doesn't stop. Ever. Every single minute, every day, every year, without end. Attacks that react to their thoughts and torture them inside their head. Some victims have been suffering this never-ending torture for 2 decades, although there seems to have been a sharp rise in cases since 2016. They are ignored by their politicians, abandoned by friends and family, and written off as schizophrenic by medical practitioners. They often end up unemployed, homeless, or committing suicide. But as Havana Syndrome gets more media coverage, the voices of victims are becoming louder and bolder. They know they are under attack from the same weapon, wireless frequencies, or under-the-skin technology aimed at disrupting their neurological functions.
Technology in and of itself is not bad. It's who's in control of the technology that is bad. Now, being that we know throughout history that humans have been experimented on time and time again against their consent, would you trust your government to be in control of your thoughts?
Why do they pick me? I have never done anything. I've never said anything. Well, maybe you're being experimented on. Some may be targeted for a reason. Some may be targeted as an experiment to see what happens through this electromagnetic means.
I believe psychotronic weapons should be banned. The damage that they are causing, we're in a war right now.
I've met many civilian victims of anomalous health incidents now. Most look broken. You can see it in their eyes. One victim, a widow in her 70s, sent me an email the other day to say she had been sexually violated for 2 straight hours, and that other things had happened that she just couldn't bring herself to type. I don't think there's a precedent for this kind of torture.
I have met people that have been subjected to such horror that it makes me more determined to bring this to an end.
The technology, the harassment campaigns, all of that is intended for a lifetime. Only a very, very few instances have I heard of someone's targeting stopping. And we've had quite a number of targeted individuals that have passed as a result of their targeting.
I am usually a very, upbeat, outgoing, happy person. And, these weapons have made me question whether I want to live. And that is just not me.
When you start communicating with people, you do realize that I'm not the only one. There are quite a number of people out there that are complaining about the same thing.
This is specifically made to make a person look like they're crazy.
I think it's the most important human rights issue we have in the world today, because we have a situation now where we have technology which can remotely influence people to such a degree where they can't work, they can't do anything, they become emotional wrecks.
I have said I've been out of work for 4 years now. It's like poverty engineering to drain you to the point that you cannot sustain yourself.
I got 1013 and taken away for 8 days, and at the same time, it took my family away for 4 years.
As a mother, it's hard raising a small child, especially when you can't tell people about what's going on without them thinking you're crazy or trying to take your child away.
They're isolating you, and there's a risk of you dying from it. People have not only committed suicide, but died from it because it's so dangerous.
It's an extremely horrible torture, ultimately to isolate you and drive you to suicide, or cause you to inflict harm on someone or reach out and do something stupid. Over a period of time, going through this for years and years and years, you know, it'll wear a person down. It really will drive you to the very bottom.
With this technology, you can torture a person at home. The person doesn't have to leave the home. You can do everything. You can kill the person. You can keep him from sleeping for weeks. Then he goes to the psychiatry.
I couldn't trust what I was hearing. I couldn't trust what I was seeing at times. It makes me feel like I'm in the outside of an inside joke.
These are highly covert, highly illegal, and they're invisible, which makes it extremely hard to prove.
The trauma that this experience induces, not only from being denied that it exists and your family and friends not understanding and turning against you, the authorities not listening to the cries and pleas of what you're going through, so you're kind of you're isolated.
I'm blindfolded, and I had the inability to see who's doing this to me.
When people come out and say, this is happening to me, and they tell their stories, most people don't listen and they dismiss by reflex action. That gap must be bridged if we're going to do something about this.
Every year would go by, I kept thinking, well, it should be over after the 2-year mark. So now here I am at 7.5 years, and it's obvious there's no end in sight.
You know, it's just a horrible thing to go through. It's unbelievably horrible, and I don't know, I want it to stop.
In 2008, Kansas resident James Walbert took his former business associate Jeremiah Redford to court after he suffered similar wireless attacks. Redford had apparently threatened Walbert with jolts of radiation after a falling out, and the court issued the first of its kind verdict, banning Redford from using electronic means to harass victims. There have been many other attempts to take federal agencies, the government and law enforcement to court for similar cases, but often they fall flat. As any victim will tell you, these attacks are catastrophic to their lives and often seem intended as a slow kill. Minute-by-minute disruption to a person's life and concentration until they can't take it anymore.
They can make your home the worst jail you ever thought about.
This is really about complete mass control. It's a slow kill.
The end game is a slow kill program, and the end game is to take the individual out.
There were times when I contemplated suicide. I just thought, I've had enough of this. I thought, no, that's what they want. They want it. They want to harass you, so you either attack someone, you explode into violence and go out and attack someone, or you kill yourself and give up.
The AI bot is able to use anyone's voice.
You know, with AI, you can take a sample of the voice of someone and use it to replicate the messages that are beamed to these people's heads.
One of the things they want to do with all this torture is to get you into psychiatry or to make you commit a crime.
They were trying to get me to do something that is illegal and that would cause me to be arrested or be locked up in a psychiatric institution.
I had voices going in my head, and they tried to claim that they were demons at one point at first, which I was like, I'm sure you are.
At the beginning, it was a scenario that my neighbors were demon-possessed. It was using their voices.
A female voice tried to convince me that she was a satanic high priestess and she's recruiting people into her organization.
A lot of it is threats to my family. It's so-and-so is going to kidnap and rape so-and-so. Talks about giving family members heart attacks and stuff.
Getting the individual to do something with a promise that it will stop, the torture will stop. It's like the perfect created psyop that this person is mentally unstable or might have suffered from mental illness.
Using people's voices that I'm familiar with, they try to trick people into doing something stupid that ruins their entire life. They don't care what collateral damage they cause. They get off on when stuff like that happens, when the targeted individual ends up going and, killing somebody.
You have a man in Kentucky recently, months ago, Jack Gleason is his name. In Kentucky, he went and murdered his neighbor, thinking it was his neighbor attacking him with directed energy weapons, because that is the voice that he was hearing in his head.
An Ohio man has been arrested for gunning down 4 people after ranting about mind control. Stephen Marlowe was apprehended in Kansas over the weekend following a 2-day manhunt.
What was his motive? That's what the nation wants to know. Authorities say the Nashville bomber, 63-year-old Anthony Warner, may have been obsessed with conspiracy theories about 5G phone technology, which could explain why the bomb was detonated outside the AT&T building, disrupting cell service in 5 states.
A Kentucky man is accused of murdering his neighbor.
911. Yeah, I just wanted to call and say, hey, I just shot at him, bro. I've been tortured for 5 years now.
James Gleason called to say that he had shot his neighbor, and a detective testified that Gleason told him that torture was his neighbors using direct energy weapons on him.
In November, Elaine, he went into that federal facility in Anchorage, which, by the way, is very routine. A lot of people will go to an FBI office with a tip or information. He walked in saying people were trying to control his mind. The FBI said he was having terroristic thoughts.
We are studying these pictures tonight of Aaron Alexis, showing what his friends say they saw. Someone smiling, unthreatening. But we now know there is evidence he was hearing voices.
He claimed after an argument at a Virginia airport, an unidentified person had sent 3 people to follow him and to keep him awake by talking to him and sending vibrations to his body through a microwave machine.
In September, Myron May reported to police himself that he was being watched and observed and could hear voices coming through the walls.
He expressed fears of being targeted and that he wanted to bring attention to this issue of targeting.
What's going on today, bro?
The demons, man.
Demons?
Voices.
Yeah, no problem.
Voices.
Voices and demons?
Where's the voices?
It's only a person that is truly, genuinely tormented by these voices that goes in this kind of rampage.
One of the objects of the misuse of this technology is to provoke the targeted individual into self-destructive behavior. And these mass shootings are an exhibition of that. I think eventually there'll be enough dots that people will be able to put the picture together about what is happening with the mass shooters. The truth, I think, will come to light, and I think that all of this will be stopped.
It all makes sense. I full-heartedly believe they experienced subliminal manipulation via directed energy or otherwise. The ultimate goal there is control.
It can fracture the mind, which is part of the M-Culture programming, is the fracturing of the mind. And make no mistake about it, the targeted individual program is M-Culture, but done in a remote sense.
It's mind control. It's a way to manipulate you and control your behavior, control your thoughts.
This program has the danger of controlling the entire global population to cause assassinations and killings where there is no contact, there is no linkage to the people running the program.
In the media, the truth has become muddied on the issue. British journalist David Aaronovitch wrote an article in The Times where he suggested Havana syndrome was a mind-caused illness that was being misdiagnosed. A number of reports from the Pentagon suggest the culprit for these attacks are backpack-sized, portable devices. However, the headlines always refuse to commit completely, claiming they may, might, could, or are suspected to be the cause. A recent 60 Minutes episode suggested portable classified devices had fallen into the hands of criminal cartels.
What we're hearing about now
Dr. David Relman is a Stanford University professor of medicine asked by the government to lead 2 investigations. His panels included doctors, physicists, engineers, and others. Their reports in 2020 and 2022 proposed a theory.
The 2 panels, the investigations that I know well,
both concluded much the same, which was that the most plausible explanation for a subset of these cases was a form of radio frequency or microwave energy.
I don't buy the backpack story for 1 second. These attacks are too fast and too sophisticated. Your thoughts leave your skull, they go somewhere to be processed by software that turns brainwaves into text. It generates an audio or a physical response and is sent back into the brain faster than you can blink. This isn't some lone nut with a backpack. It's a massive, high-speed, wireless infrastructure. It's torture that responds as quickly as your cell phone might download a web page.
They are in possession of evidence that there are civilians that are victims of Havana syndrome, and now they have an obligation to investigate and do something about it. Since they accepted having directed energy weapons, all of a sudden the press came out, some journalists saying, oh, 1 year ago, Department of Homeland Security purchased a portable weapon. And it has come out that supposedly they paid $10 million for it. Do you have a person lurking behind a tree 24/7? How do they see through the walls to attack you? The whole thing is just a complete psyop.
I was contacted by a gentleman that was working for the Pentagon regarding the Havana syndrome situation. He was asking me to hand deliver information. The fact that there is neurostrike weapons, he was referring to them as neurostrike weapons, being used on soil in the United States and off soil in other countries. This is where it all ends. Period.
In 2016, in Havana, Cuba, our diplomats, U.S. diplomats, were complaining about having the sudden onset of a weird sound, followed by severe nausea, vomiting, vertigo, head pain, short-term, long-term memory loss, and more specifically, shocks to the torso and extremities. This phenomenon is real. It's happening to the best of our best in the FBI, CIA, and it is now happening to congressional members. The issue is they only address it as it's happening to federal employees. I did get a phone call from the former head doctor of the CIA, and he said to me, "You are correct. There's significant overlap between the 338 Havana syndrome patients that he's treating, federal employees, and my clients." And what he meant is the symptoms were identical. The CIA and FBI agents who are suffering from this say they have an auditory system, a strange electronic sound. What they're not saying is that they're hearing voices.
It is pretty insane to think that there is a directed energy weapon that causes this incapacitation, that it would only exclusively be used against diplomats or the military. It's nonsense. There's a huge gap, I think, in national security. Because the attacks are occurring on the U.S. soil, the basis for this technology is directed energy.
In the U.S., President Trump's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has reportedly been fighting to disclose more information about these attacks, but getting pushback from the intelligence community.
It's been deeply concerning throughout this period, from the first time this was discovered so long ago to where we are today, that the intelligence community still has failed to identify the source and the cause for Havana syndrome, as it's commonly known, even as many people who are in service are suffering the consequences of it.
Are you saying that we're not any closer to understanding where these came from?
Based on my understanding, there has not been any definitive reporting from the intelligence community on the source and the cause for these anomalous health incidents.
In a recent New York Post article, two sources were quoted discussing a 2025 White House briefing where it was suggested that in theory, these attacks could be coming from any signals-based technology capable of targeting the brain from a distance, meaning the attacks could theoretically be transmitted from everyday electronics, even cell phones. The general consensus is that these attacks are coming from microwave-capable devices, which could include cell towers.
Microwaves are a range of frequencies in the electromagnetic spectrum. Various microwave frequencies are generated by your oven, radar systems, TV transmitters, even your phone.
if you look at the towers, they're giving off increasingly powerful electromagnetic fields, and through those fields can be encoded frequencies that are basically perceptual frequencies to lead to humans literally losing their minds, losing the ability to reach individual conclusions. And this is happening collectively. It's happening to everybody.
Some politicians just don't believe it. You know, you really have to open your mind up to understand something like this happening. The intention of this is to make you sound or appear to be crazy.
You know, I've been in caves in Mexico under the water and still being targeted with this stuff. I don't get a good reception in here, for example, you know, good cell tower reception, and yet, you know, I'm still being targeted with full strength. So these are extensive networks.
I think a large aspect of the directed energy and the harassment and the surveillance is navigated through the telecom systems.
Humans have an electromagnetic field. So if they want to target someone with an electromagnetic targeting that causes pain, well, they only have to activate that part of the brain, which is decoding the pain, if you like, to make the targeted person be in agony. You can hijack the brain, you can hack into the brain and get it to process the information you're targeting at it.
So we're into 6G now. I just 5G. I was a leader on 5G getting that done. And now they're up to 6.
Let's do it again.
What does that do? Give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin? See how perfect it is? I like the cameras the old days.
A lot of politicians just don't believe it. On the other hand, I believe some politicians are very aware of it. I believe that they are scared to actually say something about it because you're going up against a giant. I believe that if they speak out against it, that they're going to also be targeted.
There's no government, there's no policy, there's no board, there's no committee, there's no elected president anywhere in the world that has the right to be discussing it and making public policy without your consent and your full consent, and what that means clearly stated for you. This has nothing to do with loyalty to any government or any place that you or I may be. This has to do with what it means to be human and your free will and your right to think.
Over in Britain, Linda, a victim in her 70s who has been suffering these attacks daily for years, has arranged a meeting with her local Member of Parliament, James Cartledge, who also happens to be Shadow Defence Minister for the Conservative Party.
I'm here to meet my local MP, James Cartledge. He's the Shadow Minister of Defence, and I want to talk about the electronic abuse that many people are suffering, including myself. We want to push for a ban on psychotronic weapons. It's ruined my life. It's been going on for years. I do represent many people who are suffering.
During the meeting, Cartledge refused to acknowledge that the attacks are real and refused point blank to push for a ban on psychotronic weapons in the British Parliament, despite Russia having implemented a ban on their use in 2001.
I've just this minute come out, and everybody was very pleasant, but it was the same as I've been getting over the last few years from the police and the medical profession. They gave that look of disbelief, and I found that very hard again. James Cartledge doesn't believe that there's any of these weapons. Very disappointing, I'm afraid.
I attended the meeting with Linda and was shocked that Britain's Shadow Defence Minister flatly refused to investigate banning psychotronic weapons here. I've met many British victims now, and this is what we're up against. It's what you might call willful ignorance.
Someone please listen to us and believe us.
The burden of proof is something all civilian victims suffer from, given these attacks are silent and invisible. So, what is the evidence for psychotronic and directed energy weapons and their capabilities against the human body? In 1998, Parameters, a journal published by the U.S. Army War College, published an article by Lieutenant Colonel Timothy L. Thomas called "The Mind Has No Firewall." In it, he proclaimed that humanity stands on the brink of a psychotronic war, and that an entirely new arsenal of weapons, based on devices designed to introduce subliminal messages or to alter the body's psychological and data processing capabilities, might be used to incapacitate individuals. These weapons aim to control or alter the psyche, or to attack the various sensory and data processing systems of the human body. A few years later, in 2001, Dennis Bushnell, chief scientist at NASA's Langley Research Center, delivered a provocative presentation titled Future Strategic Issues, or Future Warfare, to an audience of defense and intelligence professionals. Among the emerging threats he covered were mentions of directed energy weapons. Bushnell spoke of the threat from microwaves, listing impacts such as gross alterations in brain function and potential lethality in certain scenarios. In 2016, Paul Baccio, a former scientist from Los Alamos National Laboratory who claims to have worked on various projects for DARPA, was quoted as saying, "There is a technology transmitting RF signals and communications at the human brain's resonant frequency bands, and it is targeting individuals and groups." More recently, during the raid on Venezuelan President Maduro, the U.S. military used the discombobulator, which disabled soldiers guarding the Venezuelan leader by directing energy at them to make them sick. There is no mention of this weapon having any effects on the brain, but is said to have caused nosebleeds and nausea. One of the most high-profile names to speak out against these weapons was ex-CIA and State Department employee, the late Robert Duncan.
Robert Duncan was one of the early pioneers, and he was extremely revered in our community. People really respected him for his knowledge and for his experience.
I've learned a lot from him. I hate that he's not still with us. It's very sad. I'd like to know what happened regarding that. Some of the stuff he has talked about is exactly what I'm dealing with.
As soon as I read Project Soulcatcher Volume 2, I was like, whoa, this is exactly what's happening to me.
He says that he kind of invented this technology. He saw that it's used against civilians. He went public with his books, with his lectures, and he talked about this situation. I think they must have been afraid of him and I think they killed him.
So Robert Duncan was a tremendous human being. My favorite quote of him that really changed my thinking, he said, "Imagine Earth is an open MRI machine." I realized that the magnetic portion of the electromagnetic spectrum is really important in this phenomenon.
You want a random sample of the population, all languages, all cultures, in order for a worldwide weapon of an AI system that can interact with every human brain, for example. Functional MRI that you can do at a distance over the earth. You have every human being's brain pattern. You can control 8 billion brains on the planet, potentially, read them. And you'd beam the entire earth over it. You're like a cell phone. Your brain is a circuit. So if you're dialed in, once you have a cognitive model, you would never be able to escape it under the magnetosphere or ionosphere. It's worldwide.
In Duncan's book, Project Soulcatcher 2, he talked about a global weapons system that goes by the name Silent Assassination Through Adaptive Networks. Duncan suggested the weapon uses chatbots that can automate the process of talking someone to their death, suggesting it's just one method of silent assassination, and that the torture victims suffer helps to depattern the good behaviors for survival, so that detrimental ones can be programmed in their place.
In Duncan's book, he talks about something called silent assassination through adaptive networks, the acronym of which is Satan. Given what we now know about Satanism in the Epstein files, it's apparent that whoever is running these programs has the very worst of intentions for mankind. They didn't pick that acronym by accident.
It's torture. But who benefits from this?
The targeted individual program that inflicts anomalous health incidents onto regular citizens is cruel and senseless. But who truly stands to benefit? Homelessness or mental health, non-governmental organizations might benefit from a significant year-on-year increase in applicants for help. In the U.S. state of California, for example, there are ongoing investigations into fraud and misuse of those funds, where homelessness is growing exponentially. It's clear there is money being made to the detriment of victims, knowingly or unknowingly by the benefactors.
People that are going and seeing mental health professionals for cognitive issues, and they don't know what to do, and they don't know where it's coming from.
When we were getting attacked, both me and my mum went to the police to report the crimes. Instead of investigating, they sent our crime reports to the local mental health hub, who marked them amber. And instead of getting arrested, I got sectioned based on the report that had marked me amber.
The mental health industry automatically railroads people that if you have any type of out-of-story symptoms, it's automatically a psychiatric disorder.
Until recently, victims of AHIs were doubted and their sanity was put into question. When you start suffering the effects, your doctor might automatically prescribe a 2 to 3 year course of antipsychosis medicine, which doesn't come cheap. So in places where healthcare is determined by insurance, like America, both Big Pharma and the insurance industry stand to gain.
The pharmaceutical companies can benefit from this. You know, a lot of these weapons, they're hitting people, and, you know, for instance, myself, I get migraines. So, hey, you know, what pharmaceutical industry, let's give them a migraine medication or any symptom that we might experience from these weapons.
I'm not saying that medicine is bad. All I'm saying is we're specifically talking about the capabilities of this technology when you can be influenced by RF emissions. Our declassified documents specifically talk about how they can inflict pain, they can manipulate the human biochemistry with it, they can transmit sound, imprint memory sets, and erase memory set. Imagine if you can do that and you had that kind of power. What could you do to a mass population? During the Obama administration, they initiated the Brain Initiative, where they wanted to decode the human brain and human genome. This is going to drive economies. It's going to drive medicine.
Neural data is very valuable. So if this data is indeed being stored and used, it would be very lucrative for whoever was taking it.
They study you, they monitor your behavior, your patterns, they collect your data. Your data is valuable.
If you're mining data from the mind, this is the last vestige of sacredness we have, basically, is our free will. The brain becomes more and more of a commodity.
The neurotechnology space is wide open and unprotected. There's almost no legal framework governing who can collect data, how it's used, or what rights individuals have over their own cognitive information. So you end up with these dangerous gaps. The people building this technology understand it deeply. The people who need to regulate it don't have the vocabulary, the technical literacy, or frankly, the access to experts they need to write meaningful legislation. And that's not a criticism, that's a call to action.
The essential questions are not being discussed by the right people in the right forum, in the right places. If we don't put a fork in the road or a stopper, you won't know the difference between what you consented to, what you agreed to, and what you didn't. And I have a right to my own thoughts, my own evolution, my own privacy to those thoughts, and the decisions I make in my life.
Capturing a metadata, and when it comes to the human neurology, should be made illegal. There are laws right now, particularly in the United States, where it is legal to experiment on us. Section 3024 of the Cures Act that was instituted by the Obama administration. In there, it says it is legal to experiment on a U.S. citizen without their consent, as long as it doesn't exceed minimal risk criteria. And the definition of minimal risk criteria is nothing that doesn't happen in normal everyday life. And I ask each and every one of you out there, does death happen in normal everyday life?
Torturing an individual is
absolutely unacceptable. It's an absolute right to be prevented from being tortured, even in the Geneva Convention. So to have that, yes, people using those weapons, it's a no-no, a definite no-no. It's a human rights violation.
To be so cruel is to take away the most basic thing that someone has, the ability to think, discern, take action, is insanely cruel, because what's happening is TIs are being put on this program for life.
The whole thing with fighting this technology is its recognition. No amount of personal testimony will convince the skeptics.
I know people in America that are TIs, I know people in Ireland that are TIs, I know people that are in Britain that are TIs, so it's definitely global. But here's the question, why are all the tactics identical? Why is it identical in Japan? Why is it identical in America, UK? Right, so they're working from some sort of manual.
One organization claiming to be champions for the protection of neural data is the Neuro Rights Foundation, who have been working with states in the US and countries across Latin America to form laws that safeguard neural data. However, these laws are designed to prevent misuse of data and neural manipulation in uses of consumer and corporate neurotechnology devices, an almost non-existent industry currently. What they don't protect against is the theft and processing of neural data taken wirelessly, which Robert Duncan claimed was possible with microwave frequencies. And while they claim to see nanotechnology as a growing area of concern, none of the neuro rights laws they have driven or directly influenced mention nanotech or nanoscale devices. Their own analysis of the device landscape only covers non-invasive wearables and implants like Neuralink. In an email to us, one of the Neuro Rights Foundation's co-founders, Jared Genser, said, "We never promised anyone that we could or would address every area or concern in the field of neurotechnologies and human rights," and went on to say that their narrow focus on data and interference from devices was due to the expertise of their team members and their modest budget. For several years, Neuro Rights Foundation was funded by Sloan Foundation. Sloan's program director for information and technology is Doron Weber, an Israeli national. Despite claiming to have no ties to Israel himself, the Neuro Rights Foundation's Genser is regularly held up by Israeli media as an international human rights expert.
When I asked Jared whether he had any connections to Israel, one of the first things he did was to suggest I might be anti-Semitic. I have met several Jewish victims of anomalous health incidents, one of which has been suffering from horrific voices in her head for 8 years now, every single day. He also said they don't cover frequency-based neurotechnology because they know nothing about AHIs or the torture program. I know that's untrue because many victims and the organizations representing them have told me that they have tried to reach out to the Neuro Rights Foundation for help and gotten nowhere.
Israel have a deep history in the development of communication systems, including components in almost every microwave-enabled device on the market, from components in cell phones to cell towers. Israel is a market leader in developing radio access and transmission solutions that leverage the microwave spectrum. That raises red flags for many, given Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's legal battles in Case 4000. Netanyahu, who was previously Israel's communications minister before becoming prime minister, is accused of advancing regulatory decisions in exchange for bribes said to be worth hundreds of billions of shekels. The case exposes a troubling disregard for ethics and morality in an industry handling data for millions of Israelis and manufacturing hardware for a large majority of the world's telecommunications devices and infrastructure.
Many of us knew that Mossad was inside the chip, literally. All of them, wherever they're manufactured, worldwide. That's where the game is played, is inside the chip.
Israelis should be very proud of the success of their telecommunications industry. But when you have someone like Netanyahu in charge, it's highly concerning. I believe Israel are behind the targeted individual torture program and Havana syndrome. In my opinion, they're using backdoors in communications components they produce to torture people into homelessness, suicide, and worse. And they probably used regulatory favors and military connections to have these backdoors built into this infrastructure at every level.
Many people are aware now that Israel are a strong player. Some people even say they control the world.
Israel has vast global reach. Where it's all been leading is high tech, electromagnetic tech, microwave tech, AI tech, digital tech. So you would expect, and that's how it turns out, that Israel would become a global center for exactly that technology.
I was writing about Epstein and 9/11 and stuff that happened in relation to Mossad before I got targeted. They argue a lot about Israel. They bring up Israel a lot. They claim to be Mossad adjacent, which you can never take anything they say as truth. But yeah, they're very much saying that that there was a takeover of the CIA by Mossad with this technology, and they're very proud of it. And they'll brag about 9/11 and all sorts of stuff like that.
If the cause of Havana syndrome, if the attacks with directed energy weapons that cause Havana syndrome were perpetrated by a foreign power, by another nation, it would be construed as an act of war.
Another red flag that demonstrates Israel's lack of regard for cell phone privacy is Pegasus spyware. The software enables zero-click spying on any cellular device, meaning all the hacker has to do is send the device a text, which doesn't need to be opened or read. This then gives the sender full access to the device, including the camera and microphone. Made by NSO Group, its founders and many of its research staff have backgrounds in Israeli intelligence, particularly Unit 8200, the IDF's Elite Signals Intelligence Unit. All sales of Pegasus require approval from the Israeli Ministry of Defense. Israeli media has reported that Pegasus spyware was used against Israeli citizens by police to target leaders of anti-Netanyahu protests, activists, and figures linked to Netanyahu's telecoms corruption trial. Some people even believe the Hamas pager attack was actually Israeli-made parts that were set to detonate on demand.
The golden pager that was given to President Trump. What am I to make of the fact that you had these exploding pagers used to kill terrorists? Obviously, that's not the only people who were killed, but nonetheless, that was their purpose. And then one is delivered to Trump. It can obviously be read as a threat. Netanyahu then later delivers a speech in a totally separate context, of course, could mean nothing, where he's bragging that every cell phone of everybody in the room has Israeli technology in it.
We're pretty good at producing weapons. But do you have cell phones? You have cell phones here? No. You're holding a piece of Israel right there. You know that? I mean, a lot of the cell phones, the medicines.
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel, shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay, we're the directors, we're the producers, we're the main actors, and the world is our stage.
What about offensive weapons? Well, I can tell you we shared it with America, but I can't share it with you. Okay? The most advanced offensive weapons on the planet, things that none of the superpowers have, developed by Israel, shared with America. That's very important because, you have to be strong. Everybody understands that.
Many believe that anomalous health incidents are also driving people to kill. Could Israel be torturing people into mass murder to create chaos, drive tighter security measures, and assassinate high-profile names?
They seem to want to create a clash of civilization. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the Islamic terrorism we've seen in the past 25 years is in fact people having voices beamed into their heads, posing as God and instructing them to carry out these acts.
To get somebody to blow up a bus full of children or a building full of innocent civilians, you have to grind it into their minds. You have to wash their brains and tell them there is a higher cause out there. It's religious, ethnic, racial, whatever. And for that higher cause, you can disregard all the normal rules of morality.
I'm convinced Israel used these torture techniques to try to assassinate both President Trump and Elon Musk.
In 2025, Republican Congressman Tim Burchett claimed that President Trump's would-be assassin was likely under some form of modern mind control program.
So you are alleging that Thomas Crooks was groomed by some type of dark intel program, MK Ultra or otherwise, in order to commit on that day the act of an assassination.
I think so. I've said that all along. All Israelis, my wife Sarah and I were shocked by the horrific assassination attempt on the life of President Donald Trump. This wasn't just an attack on Donald Trump. This was an attack on a candidate for the presidency of the United States. This was an attack on America. It was an attack on democracy. It was an attack on all the democracies. On behalf of myself, my family, the government and people of Israel, we wish President Trump a speedy recovery, continued good health, and continued strength.
In 2024, Elon Musk told Joe Rogan that one of his would-be assassins believed he had been chipped. It's a feeling which many targeted individuals experience.
Before I supported Trump and everything, there were two guys that traveled to Austin to kill me. I don't know if you know about this.
Yeah, I did hear about that.
Yeah. And two separate incidents. One guy thought I put a chip in his head.
Prominent Israeli historian Yuval Noah Harari recently told a World Economic Forum audience that artificial intelligence will soon furnish humanity with all of the thoughts in our heads.
AIs will soon be the origin of maybe most of the words in our minds. AIs will mass produce thoughts by assembling words, symbols, images, and other language tokens into new combinations. Whether humans will still have a place in that world depends on the place we assign our non-verbal feelings.
There are strong links between the Israeli government and the blackmail operation led by Jeffrey Epstein. In the recent Epstein Files release, there are several mentions of neuroweapons and of the targeted individual program, with some victim testimony highlighting radio frequency attacks in relation to human trafficking.
The TI program mentioned in the Epstein Files validates the experiences of survivors, and for me, I've seen that it is actually a conversation starter when speaking and discussing it with the general public at large.
In one document, a letter to Jeffrey Berman, former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, the redacted correspondent says these radio-based attacks make it seem as though people are hearing voices and feeling these other hallucinations that often resemble sexual interactions. The letter goes on to suggest that driving people to commit suicide is a common practice with these transmitters. In another document, a victim in Australia wrote to the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York, detailing both sexual and electromagnetic targeting. In the letter, she wrote of unusual transmitted sounds, anxiety, mood changes, insomnia, and bad dreams, and targeted EMF and RF transmissions, frequencies that impact the electrical impulses of the brain and alter cellular tissues of the body. A third document seems to detail the targeting of a family, including EMF and radio frequency transmissions on the brain functions, including electrical impulses of the brain, epilepsy, and tissue function.
Right now, the atmosphere around the Epstein Files is so extremely politically charged that no one is paying attention to directed energy weapons in those files.
The Epstein Files have brought out the scary reality included in this program.
In a series of emails, Jeffrey Epstein and former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak discuss a startup called Reporty Homeland Security. Reporty CEO Amir Alachai wasn't shy about their links to Israeli intelligence services in several interviews.
In my specific unit where I was, we had different
agencies and entities that came to us to pitch us what we can do after the army. In one of the pitches that we received from one of the three-letter agencies of the Israeli Defense Forces to connect basically the world into public safety and to connect the public safety into the world and to make sure that all this kind of chain is fully singing together.
Ehud Barak was a founding board member. Part of Reportee's offerings listed on their old website included an advanced positioning system. One document, which seems like an investor report, has Reportee confirming the creation of a scalable framework and active data models for the collection, processing, and geolocating of both active and passive raw RF signals that includes indoor positioning. Are we to assume these so-called passive signals are actually the collection of brain signals directly from the body? Epstein also seemed to have a fascination with neuroscience and microwave networks. In another chain of emails, someone at Bill Gates's Gates Ventures, whose name is redacted, emails Bill Gates about research into weaponized neurotechnology. The email is then forwarded to Epstein. In 2009, disgraced Harvard professor Mark Hauser emailed Epstein about something called TMS, or trans-magnetic stimulation, which was available at Harvard Medical School's Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. Hauser pitched TMS as something wild and creative that allows for focal suppression of brain function. Fast forward to February 2014, Epstein was asked by Japanese venture capitalist Joi Ito to remind him of the electromagnetic technology capable of erasing short-term memory, to which Epstein replied TMS. Later that year, in June 2014, Epstein asked Harvard professor of mathematics Martin Nowak to have someone contact a researcher at the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center to book an appointment to work on an 11-year-old girl who he wanted to use TMS therapy on. Epstein donated a total of $850,000 to MIT between 2002 and 2017. $525,000 went to the MIT Media Lab under the leadership of Ito. One professor who sought funding from Epstein and met with him at least 6 times is Ed Boyden. Neuroscientist Boyden was featured in a Wired article, which pitched him an ambitious brain hacker who develops revolutionary engineering tools. The article suggests that for Boyden, voyeurism is not enough. Boyden is also designing tools to tweak, trigger, and silence neural circuits, offering a degree of control that neuroscience has always lacked. Around the same time, between 2013 and 2016, Epstein's team were openly building a private cell tower network. They were discussing starting their own internet service provider, purchasing radio stations, and procuring FCC licenses and microwave spectrum. It has been suggested that microwave frequencies between 0.5 GHz and 10 GHz can penetrate obstacles, including the human skull, and when pulsed at high power can cause neurological effects, including V2K, which is thought to be caused by what is known as the Frey effect. This was confirmed to us in an email from University of Chicago professor James C. Lin, who wrote the book The Auditory Effects of Microwave Radiation on the Brain. This is relevant in the Epstein files, as Epstein's team seemed determined to source a 6 GHz system, despite several suppliers suggesting a stronger 11 GHz system outside the window of neurological impact.
Had the Epstein files just come out and mention a targeting program, very similar equipment to what we're seeing.
What struck me in the Epstein files was that his team seemed insistent that they wanted a 6 GHz capable system. And we are told that microwave attacks between 0.5 GHz and 10 GHz can cause neurological effects when pulsed at high power. In the Epstein files, Epstein's team seemed determined to set up a system between this dangerous bandwidth, even when their suppliers proposed systems at a safe 11 GHz.
What's interesting about these emails is that Epstein's team hired Sierra Nevada for the installation of the tower. Sierra Nevada Corporation are a military contractor who are famous for creating Medusa, an offensive weapon which uses microwave to beam voices and sounds into people's heads.
Project Medusa was a real project. We can find information about it. It was active from 2004 to 2008. The prototype was made by Sierra Nevada Corporation. It was a real device that transmitted pulsed radio frequency waves and worked based on the microwave auditory effect. So it was a working prototype. The story is that it was discontinued as a non-lethal weapon, as a crowd control weapon, because it was producing brain injury.
Sierra Nevada maintains defense contracts with many Israeli firms. Why would a financier living alone hire a military contractor to put up his private communications network? Epstein also had connections in the satellite industry. In 2013, Epstein corresponded with inventor and engineer Greg Weiler, founder of low and medium Earth satellite constellations, OneWeb and O3B networks. Weiler emailed Epstein in September that year to say, "You may get that cell tower." In an email the following year, Epstein asked, "Any luck with Choice Communications giving us a cell tower?" Interestingly, Weiler's new company eSpace operates in frequencies between 3.4 gigahertz to 7.1 gigahertz. There is no evidence of eSpace doing anything nefarious. But Weiler did visit Epstein Island, and in one email, Epstein reminded Weiler of an amazing opportunity that I told you on the island was yours to lose. The most famous associate of Jeffrey Epstein is Ghislaine Maxwell, daughter of Robert Maxwell, who is renowned for his alleged Mossad ties. Robert Maxwell's publishing house, Pergamum Press, published a book in 1982 called Changing Images of Man, with Maxwell's name listed in the inside cover. In the book, the authors compare the merging of technology and the mind to the apple in the Garden of Eden by suggesting it is the biggest bite out of the fruit of the tree of knowledge that mankind has taken in the last 2,000 years.
I believe fully there will be flash memories you can plug into your brain. We'll be able to hook our brains into calculators and statistics programs and have Google directly into the frontal lobes. I mean, there's going to be a lot of expansion of the mind through interfacing the human brain with technology. There's an unanswered question of how far can you go and still be human.
One man that seems to connect Epstein and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is Google's Ray Kurzweil. In a 2017 email, Epstein confirmed he knew Kurzweil well. Kurzweil is famous for calmly presenting the surrender of bodily autonomy to nanotechnology and bots that he believes will inevitably enter our minds. In a 2003 Committee on Science in the U.S. House of Representatives, Kurzweil spoke of deeply intertwined promise and peril when it comes to nanotechnology. It's long been rumored that Kurzweil and Netanyahu attended classes together at MIT, and they were at the university at the same time.
Kurzweil sees a day when microscopic computers will make all kinds of learning as easy as downloading.
You're saying millions of tiny computers floating around in my head?
Fundamentally, you're talking about tampering with humankind.
Our computers are not going to be these rectangular devices we put in our pocket. They're going to be inside our bodies and brains, and we're going to be a hybrid of biological and non-biological intelligence. Biology is very impressive, intricate, clever, but also very suboptimal compared to what we ultimately will be able to engineer with nanotechnology.
The connection between Ray Kurzweil and Benjamin Netanyahu is a gimme, really. Why is it that Ray Kurzweil is talking about the fusion of the human brain and artificial intelligence connected to the cloud? If you know what the plan is, then you can predict it.
Given all these red flags, it's hard to imagine the targeted individual program and Havana syndrome are coming from anywhere other than Israel.
In April 2013, at the Paris Center for Peace in Israel, during TED Talks TEDMED, Dr. Ido Bachelet, a researcher from Bar Ilan University, revealed Israel's prowess in producing self-replicating nanobots.
He stands up on stage and says to the audience, and he's holding up a syringe, and he goes, in this syringe are 1,000 billion robots. He says that these nano robots can be programmed to do virtually anything. He even called it nano origami.
Inside the syringe, there are millions of tiny robots, of tiny machines that will be injected into Dana's bloodstream. Today I'm going to show you that these robots exist here in Israel. And I'll show you this syringe, which I brought from my lab. So this syringe has inside it 1,000 billion robots. So these robots are each 50 nanometers long, which as you can see in this slide under the microscope. 50 nanometers is about 2,000 times thinner than the thickness of your hair.
We are now dealing with nanotechnology, which self-assembles, self-replicates, and the nanotech assembles at high-density nerve endings on the human body. You can have complete control over the human species. The ability to read your mind in real time, see your thoughts, know what you're looking at, know what you're experiencing is very valid and very real.
The media coverage of Havana syndrome often pegs Russia as a culprit. In a recent 60 Minutes episode, Russia was blamed for losing control of the rumored backpack-sized devices. What's interesting is 60 Minutes is produced by CBS News, now owned by Larry Ellison's son David. Larry Ellison is reported to be a longtime confidant of Benjamin Netanyahu, and is referenced in some of Netanyahu's corruption cases. CBS editor-in-chief Bari Weiss also has ties to Israel, including via her father, who sits on the AIPAC Council. Could Israel be trying to foment friction between America and Russia by pushing the blame for Havana syndrome and the targeting program onto Vladimir Putin's government?
We have large numbers of people who are dual citizens. And we have large numbers of people, they call them Zionist billionaires. Pick whatever name you want. They have spent enormous quantities of money over many years to reach the condition that exists today. A condition under which Israel's demands, and you have to link Israel to the larger financial picture because these billionaires control more than just a fraction of finance. They control the financial system in our country. They have a huge impact on it globally, certainly in the West. And they have interests in expanding that power and influence. Israel is a way to do that.
Several clues in the past point to Israel's desire to control the human mind. Zbigniew Brzezinski, who has no direct links to Israel, but often spoke both critically and fondly of the country, wrote in his 1970 book, Between Two Ages, that in the technotronic society, the trend would seem to be towards the aggregation of the individual support of millions of uncoordinated citizens, easily within the reach of magnetic and attractive personalities exploiting the latest communications techniques to manipulate emotions and control reason. He went on to say elites would have the temptation to manipulate the behavior and intellectual functioning of all the people in this technocratic society. Another red flag is found in a set of documents made public in 2023. They are handwritten notes written by Oker Shannon, former research scientist at Oak Ridge Laboratory. The notes document a meeting in 1985 called Advanced Theoretical Physics, which was reportedly attended by former Stanford and NSA engineer Hal Puthoff, known for his work in laser physics, and with a famous Israeli remote viewer, along with John B. Alexander, a retired U.S. Army colonel best known for his advocacy of non-lethal weapons. The note includes minutes of the meeting, where Shannon writes about the group's concern about an Israeli book which warns Soviet work on parapsychic warfare is far ahead, but Israel's work in mind control is ahead of them. The book in question isn't mentioned in the notes. Another document, purportedly from the 1980s, can be found in the 1995 book The Toronto Protocols 666 by conspiracy researcher Serge Monast. The unverified document, entitled The Red Dawn, is claimed to be the minutes of a meeting by a group calling themselves the 666. It suggests of a global takeover, with a view to absolute control over world trade. In Objective 18 of the document, the group reportedly aimed to get rid once and for all of all individuals with a Judeo-Christian consciousness. In point 24 of the document, it states by the intervention of crazy shooters create a climate of insecurity in the populations to bring about tighter control of firearms, directing acts of violence in such a way as to blame them on religious extremists, or even people claiming to have privileged communications with God. In Objective 25, the group refer to the Omega phase, which involves the deployment of electromagnetic weapons on a global scale to accelerate the economic fall of the states most threatening for us.
While there is no evidence the Toronto protocols are real, the document is very interesting, mainly because a lot of it seems to have happened. Tighter societal control, financial crises, and using climate and the poisoning of nature as a means to get full spectrum dominance. Not to mention making people hear voices in their head.
One thing is clear: the electromagnetic spectrum is not as safe as we have been told and can be weaponized against the human mind and body. Juxtaposed to that is the development and sophistication of novel nanotechnologies, capable of being inflicted on an individual or mass population without their knowledge via food, in the air, and by injection. Modern telecoms networks use a process called beamforming, which allows them to target specific frequencies with uplink and downlink signals. Does this newfound electromagnetic precision mean every signal in nature, including humans, will inevitably become a data node in a future world? And what will it mean for privacy, religion, and freedom when these signals can be edited and censored without our knowledge it's even happening?
Those microwaves is the mechanism that causes thoughts, causes voices, can cause headache. If 5G can be dynamically configured to do this, and the answer is yes.
So the whole reason that telecommunications companies around the world are rapidly ramping up 5G capacity is that this much higher frequency carries more information per unit cost of transmission. And this allows them to meet what they see as things like driverless cars and the Internet of Things, where your phone talks to your household appliances and security systems, all that sort of thing, which require more or less continuous connectivity to the Internet. Because these higher frequencies, these are radio frequencies, because the signals are easily interrupted by dust, rain, foliage of trees, almost anything, never mind building walls, they have to put the transmission towers much closer together. Instead of being some kilometers apart, which you will be familiar with from the old 3G and 4G towers, they're now requiring there to be some kind of either main tower, but also booster units that are often mounted on light posts or utility poles. Now, those have to be within 100 to 200 meters, depending on what's in between them and the receiver, the phone. They have to be that close together in all populated areas. It works out that something like over 30 times the density of towers or booster stations would be required for a full 5G network compared to an old 4G network. And indeed, most people would not notice the small boosters on the utility poles. There was a growing body of evidence, even in 2021, from scientists with very strong independent reputations who were arguing that the safety limits for exposure were based upon dated research on the limited number of lab animals conducted decades ago, without any consideration of the intervening hundreds of papers suggesting potentially adverse effects at the subcellular, cellular tissue level in any living thing, including humans. There are almost no studies underway to document human health effects from these new installations, 5G installations. Vested interests actively fund renegade scientists, if you like, to argue for these old exposure limits. Those old exposure limits are based upon a fallacy. Those studies show that the effects of these electromagnetic fields from radio frequency, not only in humans, but in animals and tissue cultures, cell cultures, everything, those effects are not limited to the effects caused by heating of the local tissues. But the regulations are based only on heating effects. So there is a problem, and the problem is that no one wants to talk about the problem. What's being promoted, including by the WHO, the World Health Organization in Geneva, is an old set of regulatory limits for exposure, which make it easy for the industry to put up towers anywhere. No one who knows that science, biophysics, would be at all surprised that such fields affect virtually every process in the cells and tissues of living beings.
I personally think it's cell phone towers, because the cell phone tower is a electromagnetic weapon, directed energy weapon. You can use it as a weapon, but I think also part of the attacks comes from satellites. There is not really much information about military satellites. We don't know what did they shoot the last 70 years into space.
I didn't see anybody get a phone call or have a town meeting when they introduced the mobile phone to the public. They just did it. But they didn't have any discussion with you about what that was going to do to social space, to your biology, to your digestive process, to your perceptive mechanism, and how you interface with yourself and others, and what it was going to do to augment and update your central nervous system to essentially train you for the effect of instantaneousness, and what that was going to do to get everybody for where we are at now. The big questions are not being discussed at all. And you deserve to know that. You deserve to know what your phone is doing to you. You deserve to know what 5 and 6G is actually being used for. You deserve to know why they're spraying nanodust all over the place.
What does it mean for society when directed energy and nanotechnology can steal your ideas, inflict pain, or kill you from a distance without any way to trace it back to the perpetrators?
We are in a very, very unique position, unlike anything that's ever happened before, ever.
If we don't do something now, the window is so short. If we don't wake up society now, your generations to come will never have a chance for cognitive freedom, cognitive liberty. Their thoughts will no longer be their own. They will believe that they're their own.
We have thoughts, and we think those thoughts are our own. AI will do more and more and more of human thinking until human thinking is negligible. What an ultimate control system if you can externally tell those people what they're thinking.
They're coming for everybody's brain one way or the other, whether it's just monitoring them or whatever. One of the pluses to being loud, audible harassment is you know that you're under the influence of the weapon system or the technology.
It is the kind of technology that reaches into your mind without revealing itself, without your consent, remotely, covertly, and you have no control about it.
From what I'm seeing, it is progressing at an extremely alarming pace, and the way that they're doing it is nearly undetectable. There's basically almost nothing you can do to protect your kid from, if they really wanted to do something. And I'm absolutely horrified all the time.
The idea of some all-encroaching, technocratic, Skynet-type control grid is no longer fiction. For victims, it's our reality. We are dealing with the potential loss of mental privacy for everyone. I've already lost mine, and I can assure you, it has a catastrophic impact on your life. But what happens when humans lose control and AI takes over? There's going to be no way out of that.
They're able to actually connect your body to the internet. I do have frequencies coming out of my body. I don't know how they got in there, but why are they in there? It is the darkest thing that could ever possibly happen.
We definitely need to ban these. Why should me and my 80-year-old mother be sat in our flat, be shot in the eyes, be irradiated by weapons that apparently are supposed to be silent? It's out of control. What have we done? We've done nothing. We're just innocent people sitting in our home being attacked 24/7. Well, that's the thing. After they're done with us, they're coming for you.
We know that this technology can have a huge impact on your decisions. what else do you have? What kind of freedom do you have if your emotions and your thoughts can be manipulated and programmed? And this is what they can do.
This is the single biggest threat to humanity right now. They can do this to anybody. I mean, we're living in times that are almost biblical.
What we're talking about with targeted individuals is an expression of what they want for everybody. They've all been part of this massive research leading to the entirety of humanity being controlled by the same system.
People are asking, why is there so much push and money being put into the brain-computer interface and wearables and devices to get people to agree to give up their privacy, their brain data, and essentially access to their central nervous system? Your voice, brain, central nervous system, data, every keystroke that you ever had will be uploaded into a system, and you will not have free will anymore. We're in a disastrous situation, but every disaster has a blessing in disguise. But it's up to us to utilize this moment to do something.
It's my belief that the only reason this torture program is still going on is because the public just simply doesn't know anything about it. Well, if all the people find out that people are being tortured psychologically with military weapon systems, I believe it's over with.
Betrayed, disappointed that we have lost so much humanity, that there are people out there who would do this.
A lot of people I've met have been terrorized. It's absolutely awful, and no one should be subjected to this. And I truly believe that this will be brought to an end. Justice will prevail. So that's how I look at it.
We're going to win this fight in the end, but we need everyone to band together and everyone to stand up.
We're looking at a total hijack of the human mental and emotional processes and responses. We have to appreciate that mentality which is behind all this is not like you and me.
Now it's in the Epstein files. So my message to the world and society is, you need to start opening your eyes and listen to the people that are trying to give you a warning.
An invisible electromagnetic prison has been built all around us, and it's coming for everybody if we don't stand up now. The current Israeli administration seem determined to create a sick global utopia, all for themselves.
Technology has opened up our brains as a new frontier in freedom. They are no longer private. And invisible, silent weapons can now target anyone, anywhere, and anytime. Welcome to Dystopia.